my house, done lost my job, wife walking out. These church folks say they my friends, but I'm all they talk about. I've been doing wrong, I'm so sorry. Lord, please forgive me. We confess to him, he'll remove.
Hey, Duran. Hey, Judith.
The blood from your son will wash me from my sins. Clean this house from the inside out. Restore me. Take away my impurity. Lord, I need you to clean this house.
Hey, Asa Marie. Hey, Lo, thanks for joining. Takesha, thanks for joining.
What can I say, but I'm only human. And Lord, here I stand. I've been smoking a lot and drinking a lot and all up in the club. I've been doing this, I've been doing that, and I had no business doing it. No church or no Bible study, ain't been in my word. Now I know better than this. Can't live my life in sin. We confess to him, he'll remove all wickedness.
Hey, Jesse, thanks for joining.
From your son will wash me from my sins. Clean this house from the inside out. I need you to restore me. Take away my impurity. Lord, I need you to clean this house from the inside out. Restore me. Take away my impurity. Listen, now if it wasn't for your grace and mercy, I don't know where I would be. 'Cause you brought me out without a doubt, You're more than a friend, You're a confidant. Thank you, Lord, for cleansing me. I will always serve thee. Clean this house, clean this land.
Okay, welcome. This is Phoenix Love of A Healer's Haven. Thank you for joining me for Sunday Soup. I wanted to play that song. It's by Isaac Carree. It's called Clean This House. I believe there's a remix version of it with R. Kelly. That's not the version. R. Kelly. But it just was a fitting song for the topic that I have tonight, which is called What's Eating You. I know that we're wrapping up the Thanksgiving weekend, which is usually, traditional to really revolve around, families coming together, loved ones, and pretty much breaking bread over a feast, over dinner. And we tend to eat a lot, probably eat way too much more, way too much food than we should, and probably all the wrong food. And then kind of sit around, either watch football or talk or whatever, which is all fine and well. This is, what people have been doing for years and stuff. But when we think about, we're putting things in our bodies, we're eating, especially, in a lot of cultures, it's normal, it's the norm for us to come together around food and put food into our mouths. But I think what we need to think about also, not so much as what we're eating also, but what's eating at us. And a lot of times we have different things that happen in our lives, and it takes a toll on us. It takes a toll on us mentally. It takes a toll on us spiritually, physically, shows up as ailments, and it starts to eat away at us. So I really wanted to talk about 5 areas that literally and figuratively as well eat away at us. And then talk a little bit about what we can do to, resolve some of those issues. So when I think about what's eating at us as people, as human beings, I think about the things, especially from being a therapist, a mental health professional, a holistic therapist. These are the things that we need to let go of. These are the things that are in our lives that we need to release, because for the most part, when things fester and they build up in our lives, they build up in our bodies, they build up in our psyche, it has us instead of us having it. It has us in bondage. And when something has us in bondage, and we think about the word bondage, it has control over us. Okay? So you hear these cliches all the time, don't let you control your emotions. You stay in control of your emotions. Don't let your emotions control you. Well, there's a reason for that. Because once you start allowing your emotions and how you feel and these things that we carry around that kind of take over us and it has us, then we're in bondage to it. So there's 5 areas that tend to have us in bondage, and that starts to eat away at our soul, at our spirit. And it starts to manifest in ways such as chronic mental health disorder, such as chronic illnesses and ailments in our bodies. And it starts to spill out into our relationships. It starts to spill out when we go to work, in our businesses. It's in our day-to-day functioning. So, we really need to look at these areas. So number 1 is bitterness and anger. All too often, we think about when we're very angry, upset with someone, and sometimes we don't know how to let it go. Okay? We get into disputes or arguments with a loved one or a friend or something, and maybe that relationship ends up ending. Or a mate, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife. For some reason it didn't work out. Okay? A lot of times what comes for that one of the parties has bitterness or anger in their heart. And it starts to fester. Okay? Because you're holding on to whatever transpired, you're holding on to it. You can't let it go. You're still angry after the person. It could be years have went by, and maybe you stop talking. You don't see the person anymore, but you're holding on to it. You're harboring those feelings. Or it could be something with a job. It can be maybe you got fired from a job, or someone got fired, and they're like, they did me wrong, and you're holding on to that. So all of this stuff starts to build up, and it starts to, like I said, it starts to fester. It starts to eat at you. Okay? Which moves into number 2, lack of forgiveness. Usually, when those type of situations happen, whether it's a relationship situation, a job, whatever, some kind of negative interaction that happened and you're holding on to that feeling, instead of saying, you know what, let me forgive this person. Even if you don't talk to the person anymore, you can write a letter of forgiveness and just say, I'm going to let this go. Maybe if you don't see the person anymore, you don't have access to them anymore, write a letter, let it go. Forgiveness. But do you know, most human beings have a very, very difficult time with forgiving another human being. Even though none of us are infallible, we're human, we make mistakes, we don't always get it right. But for some reason, saying those words, I'm sorry, is very difficult for people. And what we don't realize is that forgiveness is usually not for that person, it's for you. Because at the end of the day, if you're, again, going back to 1, if you're holding all of this, harboring all these negative feelings, bitterness, anger, again, it's eating away at you. You're the one walking around. And 9 times out of 10, sometimes that person have moved on, they're not thinking about you, and you're walking around with this lack of forgiveness in your heart. And it's making you sick. So think about it this way. You need to fix you. You need to heal your heart. You need to let go of that. Because again, whatever that thing is, it has you in bondage. It's holding on. It has a grip on your heart. and you're not able to move past and move on because you are still harboring these feelings of this anger or this bitterness or this hurt or whatever it is that is transpired between you and this person, and it's bothering you. So forgiveness, lack of forgiveness is usually the other area of what's eating up at your soul and your spirit. Number 3, this is not going to be a long one, but I want to get these 5 points. Yes, Asa, resentment is like drinking poison, expecting someone else to die. Yes, that's one of those quotes that's so strong and so powerful and true. You know, anytime we don't let go, release that, whatever that is, resentment, anger, bitterness, and we don't forgive the other person, it is like we're drinking poison. And because we're saying, oh, I'm going to get back at the person because I'm angry and I'm not going to speak to them and I'm never going to talk to them. And they may have already said, okay, fine, I'm good, I'm going on. And you holding all of that stuff. Let it go. Forgiveness. And if you can't actually talk to the person or you don't have access to them, write a letter. Write a letter, mail it, throw it in the garbage, burn it, make it a ceremony. Who cares? But forgiveness is so key. I think Iyanla Vanzant has a whole series, and then teaching series on forgiveness, because that's how important it is. Especially, again, I'm going to harp on this until December 31st, 2017. This is the end of the year. You want to leave some things in 2017. So if there is someone that you need to forgive them. Do some forgiving. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's not easy. It's not easy. Trust me, I have some phone calls to make and some things I have to do. It is a process. Yes, Ace Marie. Greetings, Trey. It is a process, but it's a process that's necessary for your healing. Again, what's eating at you? 9 times out of 10, it has something to do with some kind of breach or violation in a relationship that you have with someone, a loved one, someone you cared about. They cared about you, and you need to let it go, forgive. So 1 and 2, bitterness or anger, lack of forgiveness. The third one, this is going to be rough. Secrets, deception. And I put those two together because, unfortunately, a lot of times in our relationships, there are things that have happened, things that you may have done, the other person may have done, and it's either a form of deception, you have violated some kind of trust, or someone has deceived someone in the relationship, and you're walking around with that, and it's eating you up. Or there was some kind, this happens a lot in families, there's these secrets that have been tucked away that nobody wants to talk about, and we know there could be all types of secrets. All families have them. Most families have them. And these things are being tucked away, and then you have the person, either the guilty party, the perpetrator, or you have the victim who's walking around carrying this stuff. And it will, yes, it will kill you. It will eat you alive, because nobody wants to walk around now. You got so many different emotions that come out of secrets and deception. You got shame, you got attenuation, you got guilt, you got hurt, you got pain. I mean, the list can go on and on, like a forgiveness ties into that. It's a lot of different emotions that go into that. But this is a very, very important one. And we got to realize, I'm just going to touch on, because again, with the holistic healing that I do in my practice, I deal with energy and moving energy and shifting energy in our bodies. A lot of times, a lot of that energy, that stuck energy, deals with shame. Shame is usually attached to some kind of secret or violation or deception. So, energy shifting is very, very important when it comes down to dealing with secrets and deception. And because those two are usually closely related to some kind of violation of trust. And this is where a lot of work, especially with trauma victims, has to be done. Some deep core, deep work with a licensed professional, with a healer, doing your own healing. understanding and bringing up exactly what those issues are. See, anything that's going to be healed, you have to bring it to light. You have to bring it to the surface. And the whole thing about secrets is that it's not brought to the surface. It's a secret. It's covert. It's kept under the wraps. Pandora's box. We hear all of these things, but this is a time and a season and a dispensation that we're in right now from a spiritual standpoint that we have to bring these things to surface. Let me give this example. Turn on the news. If you turn on the news, you see all of the things that are coming out in the news about all of these different senators and big important people and movie stars or producers, all of this sexual violations that have been going on and been tucked away for years. You're going to see more and more of this stuff. Anything that is done in the darkness will be brought to light. And this is the time for it. And this is important for you. And so whoever's watching, whoever this message is for, please share this message. That whatever secrets that have been buried, whether it's a family secret, because we know there's a lot of family secrets out there that are eating people alive because they're holding and harboring, and we're told whatever happens in the house stays in the house. Shh. Let me tell you something about this. Because I've worked with children that have been abused, severely physically abused, sexually abused, a lot of trauma victims, this right here is something that we are taught we cannot do that. You don't do this with people that have been sexually abused, of course. Excuse me, sexually abused, especially children, because a lot of times the perpetrator is telling them, shh, don't tell anybody. So that's something as child therapists, child clinicians, we're taught you do not do that. Never tell a kid, oh, shh, be quiet and do this. Okay? And it's so important. I'm bringing that up because this is something that is so prevalent in a lot of families. And a lot of people don't talk about it. But it needs to be talked about. And I do understand my calling, my purpose, is to bring a lot of awareness and truth about these type of situations. Okay? So, secrets and deception, it doesn't only have to deal with abuse or sexual violations or anything. It could be other secrets. It could be other things. Certain things that may happen, with the parents or with your grandparents. But these things exist. And a lot of times it eats us up. Because we're holding it, we're not talking about it. Everyone's trying to act like whatever didn't happen. It's not healthy, okay? And a lot of times, because it is a secret and it is a form of deception, these optical illusions are created in our lives. Because we know that there's something, right? But we are taught to act like it doesn't exist. We are taught to minimize it or diminish it or put it to the side. And what someone is doing, especially when it's an adult and a child who really doesn't understand things, you're basically telling them that they're not important. That situation is not important. It's not a big deal. And there's something being taught there. There's a mindset being shaped and molded behind a secret or a deception that's not being brought to the light and being dealt with. The fourth one is strongholds. Strongholds can be in the form of a soul tie. It can be in this form of a vice, like an addiction, gambling, drinking, use of substances, vices, just anything and everything that's deviant, that's going to take you out of being the best person that you can be. Okay? Any excessive, and we all have bad habits. We all have things. We may eat a little bit too much sweets, or maybe we smoke cigarettes, or maybe we cuss too much. I mean, those, but then there could be even, more serious habits that are not healthy. So anything that's unhealthy and that doesn't contribute to us being the best person that we can be, the best that God has created us to be, that can be a form of a stronghold. Because again, it's keeping us in a place of bondage. It's keeping our mind in a place of mediocrity. And how can you have the wings to fly and to soar and to do everything that God has purposed you to do if you have bondage, if you have awe in your heart, if you're continuing to practice bad habits or negative habits or unhealthy habits that are preventing you from being the best you can be. So that's, again, something like, for example, the soul tie, which is very, very important. And I'm going to have to do like a whole live on soul ties. Soul ties can be those relationships that we know is not beneficial for us. And we know that it's moved past its expiration date, that we really should not be in that relationship anymore. And those relationships, and I'm not just talking about love or romantic relationships, I'm talking about friendships, I'm talking about relationships, the job, it could be a number of different relationships. But it's a relationship that is either toxic or it's draining, like, we talk about energy vampires, or it's just something that has you more than you have it. Or it's something that it has such a grip on you, and that's why it's called a soul tie. It has such a grip on you, and that you can't get out of it. And I know, y'all know what I'm talking about, because a lot of times there's these romantic relationships, and in the world of Christianity, I know we talk about it being unequally yoked with someone, okay? Where you are in a relationship with someone, and spiritually, it's not healthy, okay? You're in a place where you're doing your spiritual practices, your beliefs, you're going to church, you live in the Word, you're praying, you're doing all these different things, and maybe that person is doing the complete opposite. Maybe that person will want nothing to do with God, Jesus, the Lord, prayer. They don't want nothing to do with none of it, okay? But yet you're in a relationship with that person. Now, look, I'm not here to judge anybody. That's not what this topic is all about. I'm just giving examples, and examples that I've come across in both my personal life, but as well as in my practice, because I do spiritual coaching. I use spirituality as a form of healing with clients. So these things come up. People be in these relationships that have strongholds over them, these soul ties where they're connected with someone. They want to sever the relationship, or they want to end it, or end the pain and the suffering that's associated with it, but they don't know how to, because it got them instead of them being in control of it. So this live is really all about making you aware. It's really just to have you think about these things. So a lot of times we're going through life and we're just functioning, and we're not realizing that there's a name for these things. There's a spirit behind some of these things. Not just unhealthy abuse, yes, and unhealthful and remaining stagnant. Exactly, Asa Marie, exactly. That these things can keep us stuck and unable, again, to realize our fullest potential. This is why, again, I always talk about be careful who you surround yourself with, and definitely be careful who you align yourself with as far as your love and romantic relationships, your friendships, even the places you work and the people you work with. You have to be very, very careful. Because, again, the reason why I am such an advocate, I'm so passionate about these topics and what I do as not only a mental health professional. Greetings, Donna. Thank you for joining. But also as a holistic therapist. The reason why I do what I do as far as holistic therapy, holistic health practices, spirituality practices, and incorporating that with mental health is because we are a whole human being. We're not all chopped up and it's all separate. We're a spiritual being. We're an emotional being. We have mental health, challenges and things that affect our mental health. Right? And we're physical beings. We're all of that. We're all that. So you have to deal with all of it, not pieces of it. So it's so important that you understand how your day-to-day interactions with people, places, and things, and the environment as well, how that has an impact on you. Everything that we experience on a day-to-day basis, it has an impact on us. Everything. Every interaction, every conversation, and we don't think about it because we're just doing it. And, a big part of the work that I do is I use a lot of mindfulness, okay? And mindfulness has a lot to do with the core of it is really about being present. So that's what this is about also, being aware that these things can affect you negatively and how it's affecting you. But how you do that is being present. That's why they say, think about what you're thinking about. Because, again, you're going through the motions, and especially if you're in some kind of compromising situation or compromising relationship that is making you even question your very being of who you are. That's a soul tie. If you are in a relationship, and again, it's making you question who you are, not in a good way. Question your very existence. Question everything about you. That's a soul tie. That's a stronghold. And that's something you have to examine and say, okay, this is not necessarily good for me. This is not healthy for me. What am I going to do about it? So, thanks, Renetta. How you doing, sis? So, it's so critical because I can go into a whole long thing, but again, I just wanted to break down 5 areas that we need to look at that can be eating at our soul and our spirit. Hey, Deidre, thank you for joining. Can be eating at our soul and spirit. If you're just joining, I'm talking about what's eating you. What's eating you? And just looking at 5 different areas that can be eating or really chipping away or consuming our soul and our spirit in an unhealthy way. And the first one was bitterness and anger. The second was lack of forgiveness. The third was secrets and deception. And I was talking about wrapping up the fourth one, which is strongholds, which can manifest in different ways. It can be soul ties. It can be different vices, bad habits, or unhealthy habits. But really starting to examine what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. Examine how we're thinking, what we're thinking about, and how is it affecting us. Okay? Looking at all our relationships. Again, I talk about you don't want to leave any year, but especially this year, 2017, you don't want to leave 2017 with these type of things going on in your life. All right? If there's somebody you need to forgive them. If it's something, a relationship that you know is not good for you, is unhealthy, you need to sever it, this is the time to really start working on that. There's just certain things you don't want to carry into the next year, into 2018. And this is something that was put on my heart because, again, when I do these Sunday soups and any of my lives, it's really about sharing information so you can live a healthy, whole, purpose-driven life. Because that's what it's all about. God has created you for a purpose. He's called you to do something special and amazing on this earth. If you're not doing it, then you have to look at why I'm not doing it. And a lot of times, once you start doing that examination, you're going to come back to these reasons that I'm basically talking about tonight. There is something that's eating at you that is preventing you from being your whole, healthy, purpose-driven self. So, which brings me to number 5. Unfulfilled dreams. Unfulfilled dreams. A lot of times we have something in our lives and usually it starts, like pictures of it or even a glimpse of it it shows up in our childhood. I was just, I did an interview earlier today, earlier this evening rather, with Asa Marie Jones. I don't know if she's still on. Her business is Wine Out of Water, and we're both in the anthology Unapologetically Winning. And we were talking about my chapter, which is The Repairer of the Breach. And I just, she asked me some questions about how I came up with the name and, just, about my books. And I told her, I said, look, I've always been a writer. I've always loved to write. I write poetry, songs, stories since I was like 5, 6, 7, as long as I can remember. So that was always something in my heart. Okay, that was just needed to be birthed and crafted and shaped and molded. Always a writer. So when you start talking about or thinking about, okay, why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my calling? Reach back to that. Reach back to the things that you did when you were a kid, when you were a child. And usually that's going to peak, or perk up what's inside of you that God has been trying to birth all along. But what happens a lot of times with us, our dreams end up being unfulfilled. Why? It could be a number of reasons why. Something gets in the way. And it's like Langston Hughes, that old poem, what happens to a dream deferred? It dries up like a raisin in the sun. That's the worst thing. That's like death. That's what really prompted me to get, do my healing and get myself together and get on this path, write my books, do everything that God called me to do, because I said, I don't want my dream to be deferred. And you have to be persuaded. You have to be vigilant. You have to be determined. You have to just be like on fire for it. You have to want it so bad that nothing's going to defer it. Nothing's going to get in your way. But there are so many people out there, so many grown-ups, so many adults, so many people with broken hearts and broken dreams and shattered dreams, and just sitting somewhere with their face in their hands, crying out, heart bleeding, because their dreams are unfulfilled. They may be 50, 60 years old, who knows, whatever age. And they're sitting there looking like, what happened? My life has went by and I have not done what I was sent here to do. And it's heartbreaking. And I don't want that for anybody. I don't want that for any of you. That's why I do what I do. Because we all should be able to fulfill our dreams. We should all be, waking up every day and saying, yes, I'm excited. I'm on purpose. And yes, Renetta, it's very painful. And you don't want that type of pain. That's a deep pain in your soul. And that's where your dreams lie. Your dreams lie deep in your soul. So that's why it's so painful. It gets to the core of you when it's unfulfilled. So that to me is one of the most important. I mean, they're all important, all 5 of them. But I left that one for the end because it's about your purpose. Because a lot of times we get a defeated spirit and a defeated mindset, and we get in our own way of fulfilling our dreams and our purpose. We become our own worst enemy of realizing whatever this thing is that God has put in our heart to do. Okay? And it could be a number of reasons. It's not, you don't beat yourself up about it. You just say, you know what? I'm going to start from right here today. Whatever that is, whatever that looks like, take that first step. Because the worst thing you want to do is leave this earth. And again, this is where my book came from. If I should die before I wake up, awareness, realizing my dream. That's where it came from. Because I kept waking up with an alarm going off in my head saying, you have to write this. You have to get this out. It's time for you to do this. Yes, bloom where you're planted. Exactly. Right where you are. And this is why, again, it comes back to, yes, you get that dream. That thing is bubbling up in your heart and you're ready to get it out to the world. You got to have the right people around you. You got to be around, connected to movers and shakers and dream builders. And people that's going to nurture and that's going to, water that plant. Okay? Put some fertilizer. That's going to encourage you when you get discouraged. You can't have people around you telling you that your dreams are stupid and, oh, nobody did that before. Why are you doing that? And questioning everything you're doing and saying, what makes you think you can do that? And you don't need that. Those people, just sweep them right on out the door. Bye. And I'm sorry. And look, unapologetically winning. I'm in that anthology. That is real. That's a lifestyle. It has to be a lifestyle if you're about living on purpose. If you're about achieving your goals and dreams. All of these things I mentioned tonight, those will get in the way. Those will be obstacles, and probably are obstacles for a lot of you right now. Bitterness, anger in your heart, lack of forgiveness. Okay, a lot of times, you know, we haven't even forgiven ourselves for things. Let's start there. You have to forgive yourself if you are going to be able to do anything positive in your life. If you're going to take those steps, you have to forgive yourself. Because if you haven't forgiven yourself, that means you don't trust yourself somewhere in some area of your life. I know about that. Okay? And that's what happens when we experience different negative things over time. It builds up. And it turns into what? A stronghold. So y'all see how all of this connect? Bitterness, lack of forgiveness, secrets, and deception, which I spent some time talking about. If you just joined them, please watch the replay and hashtag replay in the comments, and please share it. Because we have to talk about that, yes, that guilt and shame, Renata, exactly. I spoke a lot about that. It's very important because this, again, goes back to those unfulfilled dreams, those limiting beliefs. A lot of our limited beliefs come from these secrets, deceptions, the guilt, the shame is all connected. These family karmic shadows. Other words, generational curses. So we have to be mindful. We have to be mindful of, as adults, those, you know, everybody's on here as an adult, you have children. What are you speaking to your children? What words are being said to your children? What seeds? Because words are seeds. We do know that. Words are seeds. They're planted. Once you let them out your mouth, as we said, words, it should be words of power and words of positivity. Because once you release that, you can't take it back. So we think about the words that have been sown into our lives and what came out of that. Okay? And that's negative, bad, good, ugly. Because they produce. Words produce things. So that's why we have to be very, very careful of the words that we speak. That we speak over ourselves, that we speak over our children, that we speak over our loved ones in general. Be mindful of that. Hi, Jean. Oh, thanks for joining. So, yeah, yes, please catch the replay and please share it. This is very, very important. Talking about what's eating you, what's eating at your soul, what's eating at your spirit. What are these strongholds in your life? What are these blockages that's keeping you from fulfilling your dreams? Because that last one, which is unfulfilled dreams, that will eat you to the core. There's so many of us right now that are dying, crying on the inside, just broken down because we have not realized our dreams. We're nowhere near it. And unfortunately, and I'm going to say this, usually people that have not fulfilled their dreams and they're just stuck and they're stagnant and they're living a life of mediocrity, those are usually the naysayers. I hate to say it. Those are usually the ones that are speaking negativity over your dream. So what you do is you pray for them and you bid them farewell, or you distance yourself until they're able to get themselves together and work on their calling and purpose and dream. And that's how you handle that. You know? And I'm going to do a whole separate live because I know I have to address this, especially now more people that have my book, If I Should Die Before I Wake. And there's this chapter in there that a lot of people are like, ooh, what you mean by that? Just what I said. It's called Titles Do Not Matter. I opened up the chapter saying that there's going to be some people that don't agree and may have a problem with it, but I'm okay with that. I'm here to speak truth. That's part of my calling. I'm not here to make things warm and fuzzy and make people, ooh. Yes, I have that. I mean, I'm a therapist and I'm a social worker and I'm, a compassionate person and holistic therapist and all this good stuff. But here's my way of healing and working with my clients. That's children, adults, family, and I work with all types. is that, yeah, I have to confront those rough areas. I have to confront those things that are hidden and underneath. I call it peeling off the Band-Aid, peeling that onion, peeling the layers. That's part of the work. If you don't bring it to surface, you can't deal with it. So yeah, my lives and what I do here is the same thing. And I'm going to speak truth. People don't have to agree with what I say. You can disagree. It's worth a dialogue. But at the end of the day, I'm going to bring that to the forefront. What you choose to do with it, that's between you and the divine and God Almighty. So, yes, Renetta. You know, I have fellow therapists that are on this live right now. Absolutely. Let me just say this. When we get into this line of work, there's ethics and, laws and rules and regulations that we have to follow. But at the end of the day, when we get in that room and we're in that office and we're with that client and we're doing that session, it's just me and them, right? It's just the two of us in there. And they are coming because they need help. They want help. They want someone to not sit there and play nice with them and, warm them up. They can go to church. They can go to their friend and get a hug and get some feel-goods and all that. But that's not what therapy is about. A good therapist is going to challenge you. That's the whole point of it. You're to be challenged. You got to confront things that need to be changed. There can be no change without confrontation. I'm sorry. There has to be some confrontation. There has to be, let me meet you. Yes, I'm meeting you where you are, but I have to ask you those tough questions that probably nobody has asked you. That's the work. It's a journey. It's work. Okay? It's like anything else that requires change. I also do change management training with businesses and corporations, and I'm actually a trainer for the Office of Mental Health. So, in the trainings, when there's problems, and there's always problems, at different places, whether it's workplace bullying, which I think I'm going to do a webinar on that, or the actual business is going through some kind of shift or change, whether it's with staffing or there's some kind of organizational change overall or policy or something. So I do trainings with that as well. And I tell you, those workshops or those trainings, they can be rough. Because, I'm there, I have managers in the room. I've had, regular, employees in the room, managers, all different levels. And sometimes the managers don't want to hear what the employees have to say. They don't want to know. And vice versa. But that's part of the work, the confrontation that has to happen in a safe place, of course, in a safe environment. I do I've done a lot of mediation work, a lot of conflict resolution, mediation at all different levels. It has to happen. So I'm just giving you examples of we as human beings, as individuals, is no different. Yes, Renetta, right. They do appreciate those tough questions, right? And at the end of the day, yeah, listen, I've had clients get mad at me, but that don't mean they don't return. They'll be mad, They'll be mad. Listen, teenagers, they're rough. They'll curse you out. I done had them curse me out. I'm called all types of B's. It's okay. But at the end, you know how many thank yous come? How much love and how much, oh my goodness, life change, doesn't matter. It's important that we do that type of work. But not only that, not even as just clinicians, but also as individuals. The work you need to do for yourself. The first thing, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to ask yourself tough questions and get some help. That's why you have, professionals like myself. And like I said, I have a couple. Oh, I got another. Hello, Kim. Thanks for joining. Another clinician on here. And there's a lot of us that are out there. We specialize in different areas. Get the help. So please, Yes, they need to get mad so they can change. Absolutely. Yes, Renetta. Absolutely. Yep. See, you the type of clinician I am. Get mad. It's okay. Exactly. And you know what I'm going to say, just to close this, examine those areas. If you just join, you can put in, catch the replay and just put hashtag replay. Share this. Please share this. Because look, we only have 5 more weeks in the year. We want to get rid of this stuff. We don't want to take things into 2018 that has control over us. We're supposed to have control over our emotions, control over our life. Don't let these obstacles, these areas that can be resolved, hold you back from realizing your dream and your purpose. Okay? So, a couple of things I want to say. Wait a minute. What'd you say, Asa? I tell my clients I don't care if you get mad. I want you to get mad. I love it. Yes. Yes. All these therapists that are doing mighty, mighty work out there. We need that. We need that. We need to be challenged. Absolutely. So, and I appreciate all of you that are doing this important work. And this is our time to really, rise up and to help heal people, because there's a lot of hurting people out here. Hurting, broken, stuck, So, what we do is vital. It's critical. So please share this video. Yes, I do have a free free download of my book on Amazon.com. It's only for a limited time. I believe it ends with Cyber Monday. So this is a time, gift it to someone, get it for yourself if you don't have it. It's free, but it's free for a very limited time. And all I ask is that you give me a review on Amazon when you finish it. It's a quick read. It's 50 alerts, powerful messages, anecdotal stories, exercises, thought-provoking exercises. It's one of my healing tools. That's what I call it, and that's what it is. It's a book, but it's a healing tool, because again, it's exactly what I was talking about today. I touch on in more descriptive and more details than what I talked about today, but it's the same areas, but it's broken out. It's broken out relationships, it's broken out in health, spirituality, and your personal development. So it's free ebook. I said it ends, I believe, on Cyber Monday. And that's Amazon.com. And so I just thank you all for joining me. Wait a minute, I got another. And we have normalized broken and stuck and hurting without realizing. Yes, exactly, Ace Marie. And that's the problem. We can't just normalize it. Yes, thank you. So the book is, thanks, Renetta, is If I Should Die Before I Wake, Your Journey to Awakening Your Calling. Thank you for joining, Anissa. Yes, that's the book. If I Should Die Before I Wake, Your Journey to Awakening Your Calling. I'll actually put the link in the comments. Yes, thank you. And I'll put the link in the comments so you can go right to it. And, get that free ebook. And I'm just trying to think. I feel like I have some things coming up. Anyway, I'll post. There's a lot going on. December's going to be a busy month. Yes, and I have my group also for all of the clinicians and helping professionals. Awaken on Purpose. Come join my group. I'm getting ready to start a powerful live series called Monday Mindset. Yeah, I'm trying to read it. Monday Mindset, and that's an Awaken on Purpose. That's my group, my Facebook group. And it's specifically for helping professionals, ministers, counselors, community leaders, thought leaders. So come on over, Awaken on Purpose. Thank you. All right, guys. This is Phoenix Love, and I'm signing off. Have a blessed evening.